Cheer. Hey, yo, y'all hear that? So you mean to tell me y'all don't hear that? Well, riddle me this then. Listen up, I got a story to tell. Mr. If you know type shit. Back with another banger once again, going hard with no excuses, no white flags, no peace talk, no truces. So with that being said, y'all just relax. Lay back in the Maybach. Put your mental on cruise control, and as always, watch me unload this. You under dig? So let's get right into the story. But ho, if you watching this video and you rock with your man 50 grand, I need you to hit that like button. Leave me a comment. Share the video. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Now let's get into it, you heard me? Down there at Smith State Prison. And guess what? I think we got a problem. Got a problem. And guess who is dealing with? A real one. But before I tell this story, I got to say one thing. RIP to CAP. Cap out of ATL, Georgia, man. Tell me what it really do for you. You hear me? Man, Cap was a real dude, man. You know, we had our run-ins and our differences. But at the end of the day, we both had like minds, and we was willing to sit down and talk our differences out. So let me tell you about an altercation me and Cap had. And it really ain't had nothing to do with us. It just, the individuals we had loyal ties to and who I had loyal ties to. If you know, you know. So, my little homie, man, just had worked this 1 or 2s, had got a little something, man. And he gave one of Cap people something on credit. And when he gave it to him on credit, he acting like, not speaking about Cap, I'm talking about his little homeboy. He thought he wasn't going to pay the tab. He thought he was going to take something. But that ain't this, and this ain't that. So when my little homie told me, you know, immediately I reacted off the situation. Because the two things you have in this world, well, it's more than two things. You know, you got your word and you got, you know what I mean? But in prison, it's two things you got to protect. That's your respect and your reputation. Once those are tampered with or people don't respect you, you know what I mean, you may fall victim. So as soon as my little homie told me the situation, he was like, yeah, bro, I gave dude this, and he said he gonna give me that, and he ain't give it to me, and he acted like he was gonna take some, cause I put up at the window trying to holler at him, and he was like, man, little nigga, get out. It's speed on before you get peed on, you dig me? So I'm like, what? I said, yo, check this out. I said, tomorrow, when we go to chow, I said, I want you to go to set off on him. I said, don't do no talking. I said, when, because at the end of the day, like, that's total disrespect. If a man give you something on credit, the honorable thing to do is pay the man. You know what I mean? So the next day came, and we was coming out the chow hall. And Smith at the time, they didn't have no structure as far as the correctional officer having inmates going the direction to their dorm. They just, when we come out of chow hall, we like young hyenas, we just doing what we want to do type shit, you under dig? So soon we got on the big yard, and I'm the type of person like this. Normally when it come to altercations, I lead by example. I pop off first. But I want my little homie to, you know, straighten his business. Like, you ain't gonna coat tag on my reputation. Like, you gotta put your own, like I said, you gotta put your own work in around here. So soon we got on the big yard, my little homie, like, he looked at me, I did like this. Tell him to handle his business. So him and 3 of his associates, they went to boom, boom, boom. They went to putting their hands on homie. Boom, boom, boom. So make a long story short, after they duffed him out, and the dude was an outsider. He wasn't really from Atlanta. He was from the outskirts. So, you know what I mean? Dudes from A-Town, they stood down. They just let dude get beat up. And these the same cats prior that, you know, had smoked some with he had purchased from my little mans and them. So after they packed them out, you know what I mean, police came out there, grabbed everybody that was involved and locked them up. So a little bit later on that night, maybe about like probably like 6:50, because they count at like 6:20. So after they got through counting, they cleared count, and it was time for us to head back to the gym. Head back to the dorm. So when we walking past Cap dormitory, you had Cap and about 3 or 4 more individuals standing at the window. They was in front of the dorm working out. All of them had their shirt off. So at this time, you know, I heard about Cap. You know what I mean? I don't have nothing bad to say about him because, you know, we came like real close. But then we wasn't close. You know, he was on his side and I was on my side. And that's how it was. You feel me? Like Cap, he always, you know, chill with his Atlanta homeboys, and I chill with who I chill with. If you know, you know. So while we walking past the dorm, I never forget, Cap was standing there with his shirt off, and he had some clear CL20s on his head, and he's standing like this. Time T was listening to his homeboy T.I.P., aka T.I. And he just looking. And one thing about prison, a person would try to intimidate you and scare you with their looks. And Cap was not a person that, how can I say this? He wasn't the type of person, if he look at you, if you want no real one, you will be intimidated. Because, you know, bro was kind of intimidated. Like, if you know Cap, like I knew Cap, bro was a big dude, he had a bald head, and, you know, it was a lot of dudes that feared them and respect them. You know, he was locked up for unaliving somebody. I don't know the whole history to that, but I know what he was locked up for. So while we walking past his dorm, I heard a dude say, "Hey, that's them niggas right there that jumped on old boy." So I was walking when I heard, I'm like, who are we talking about? Like, he had to be talking about it, but you got some more cats behind us, but we just, you know what I mean, we're just passing the dorm. So I stopped dead in my tracks. I'm like, yo, who you talking to, homie? He be like, shit, I'm talking to them little niggas that's with you. I said, well, them little niggas that, you heard what you said, that's with me? I'm like, yeah, what's up, you got a problem or something? So by this time, Cap done took off his headphones. So now, my energy to shift to the dude who first said something to Cap. So I'm looking at him, I'm like, shit, what up? He said, shit, shawty, what's happening? I'm like, shit, like, y'all got a problem or something? So I be like, shit. He said, if I had a problem with a nigga, you would know it. I said, man, bro, check this out, man. We ain't gonna do all the tough talking behind the glass. I said, look, bro, we out here. If y'all wanna come out here, you know what I mean, what's up? So by this time, the police that was in the booth, he seen what was going on as far as the verbal talk. And he came like, hey, y'all go back to your dorm, go to your dorm. So, you know, I'm like, shit, I'm like, yo, we're gonna be out here first thing in the morning. So Cap don't say nothing. When I get in my dorm, I get in my room, I ain't even really bored about the situation, but I am. Because, again, like I said, the dude that got jumped on did a dishonorable thing. He's an outsider. He's not from Atlanta. And the two cats that said something, y'all from the A, but I understand how it go. You feel me? Like, they thought the little cats that was with me was some free picks. But that ain't this and this ain't that. If a person walk with me, chilling with me, or whatever the case may have you, there ain't no free picks, man. You gonna have to go for what you know. So by the time I get a dorm, one of my elders that I be building with named Israel, dude from New York, pimp dude, you know what I mean? He can see I was kind of disturbed, like, he said, go out, what's up? I said, man, come on, let's go to my room. So we go to the room. He said, man, you why? I'm like, yeah, I'm alright, man. I said, man, this dude over here, man. I'm like, dude named Cap, and some dude stopped us and said this and said that. And it kind of pissed me off. He said, man, bro, never mind, no, bro. He said, man, keep doing what you do, man. But I told him, I said, look, bro, I don't even allow cats to get away with verbally trying to, you know what I mean, get a person and ain't no consequences behind it. He said, man, bro, listen. He said, who you said it was? I said, man, Cat, man. I said, T.I. homeboy. He said, man, bro, y'all probably can try to, he said, y'all probably can talk it out, bro, if you want to. I said, bro, I don't do all that talk. I said, because that's what he basically told me at the window, you know what I mean? He said, man, bro, you don't need to go to hole. So we chopped up some more, so he left, and he went and got one of his homeboys from New York, but, you know what I mean, he stayed in Atlanta, and told him I was his little homie or whatever the case may have you, and see, like, can he talk to Cap and can we resolve the issue? Because Israel already know, like, I ain't going to do too much talking, you know what I mean? We got to go to war. We got to go to war because one thing for certain, two things for sure, I'm not going to let nobody jump on another mind. If you know, you know. So, the old school cat from Atlanta, he came to my cell. I invited him in. He said, man, go, everything good? I'm like, yeah, everything good. Because I don't know what you feel what I'm saying, like what he want. He said, man, you know what, Israel just can't holler at me. I said, okay. Because, you know, I'm the type of person, I'm not going to volunteer no intel. And I ain't going to talk too much. I'm going to listen more and say less. So he said, I heard you had an issue with Cap. So immediately I went to, like, an issue. I'm like, nah, I ain't got no issue with him. He said, man, you know, I practically raised Cap on the script, man. He said, man, bro, good dude, man. He was like, man, if he got involved in it, he's basically trying to, you know what I mean, show his big hominess in front of the little homies from the A. So when he told me him and Cap knew each other from the script, I felt more comfortable. I said, well, look, check this out. I said, really ain't got nothing to do with me. I said, somebody did some dishonorable business to my little homie, act like he was going to pay him. And I told my little homie, I said, look, when we go out here to the chow hall or whatever the case may have you, I said, man, handle your business. And I said, that's what happened. They said, man, look, I'm about to call him. So I said, man, you ain't got to do all that because, again, I don't want him to think that I'm trying to get somebody to resolve the issue. Like, if it's an issue, we're going to deal with it. So he said, man, I want to call. I said, man, bro, you ain't got to do all that. He said, man, I got. So he pulled out his little flip phone and called him right there. Boom, 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 boom. When he called him, you know, he was like, shit, what's up, shawty? So they was like, shit, what's happening? Da, da, da. So they got to talking. He put the phone on speakerphone. He said, hey, look, man, I got, he like, because he didn't really know me. He was like, what's your name? I said, they call me Gohar, bro. He said, hey, man, I got this dude named Gohar here and shit. He said, what's up? And I didn't say what's up. He said, shit, shawty, what's happening? What he talking about? So right then, I almost took over the conversation, but the elder dude was like, he's not got it. He said, man, shit, bro, he trying to see is the issue's a problem. So he said, man, Cap, he said, man, you been knowing each other a long time, bro. He said, man, bro, speaking about me, he said, man, homie ain't on that type time, man, bro, get to the money. He said, man, y'all probably need to collaborate and make something shake. So he was like, he was just silent for a minute. So I'm guessing he's choosing his words carefully what's about to be said. So he was like, shit, can he hear me? He was like, yeah, you on speakerphone. So like, shit, hey, bro, he said, yo, I ain't got no problem with you, shorty. He said, but shit, you know, my little homies and shit said he don't like how it took place on the yard. And I just let him talk. And I told him, I said, yo, check this out, bro. I said, well, if your little homies didn't like what took place in the yard, I said, why they ain't ride with him? He like, yeah, that's a good question. I said, bro, homie an outskirt from Atlanta. He even from the A, you know what I mean? So, like, what's the issue? He said, shit, bro, I ain't got no issue, but the same token, you know, they look up to me. I said, I understand that. I said, I got people look up to me. And I said, whatever they talk about, what they gonna do, I said, shit, like I said, then on the walk, I'm gonna tell you now, I'm saying respect them like, shit, we get active in the morning, man. You know, it is what it is. I said, but I ain't on the phone talking because of that. Now, we can come up with a solution to this. That's what it is. We can't, then you know we can't. And he paused again. And it's one thing I can say about Cap. Besides his physical And besides his physical appearance, bro was a person that was that had understanding. I'm gonna say that. So he's like I said, he paused for a brief second. And he said, shit, shorty, man, you know that shit ain't that important, man. Like, you know what I mean? He said, man, I heard about you and shit, you know what I mean? I know you be doing your thing down here and shit, man. He said, man, we're gonna throw that shit out the back door, man. He said, shit, you got a phone? I'm like, yeah, no doubt I got a phone. He was like, shit, you know. He told his old school partner to give him my number and we're gonna chop it up some more. So, you know, old school like, shit, all right. So they finished chopping it up and he hung the phone up. I gave him my number. So when I get my number, he said, man, bruh, he said, yo, that shit over with. I said, all right. Because like I said, again, I didn't have no problem with him. So fast forward, a little bit later on that night, probably like at the 9 o'clock count, a 404 number called my phone. And normally I don't answer calls that's not locked in my phone. So I looked at the number. Some said, man, answer the phone because it might be some money. So I answered the phone. I'm like, yo, what's poppin'? Who this? He said, this Cap, shorty, what's happening? He said, this go hard. I'm like, yeah, what's up with it? So he's like, yeah, man, I want to holler at you about some business, this and the third. So, you know, we chopped it up, man, and we had a lot in common. You feel me? And he just, you know, like I said, he had a high-profile case, and a lot of cats knew, a lot of cats didn't know, but everybody knew who Cap was down there. But, you know, we chopped it up because I got people in Atlanta and shit. And when we went to talking, he knew some of my people and I knew some of his people. So we just got real cool, man. You know what I mean? And every time it was a situation with one of mine and one of his, you know, we try to come up with a solution. It ain't always work out like that because at the end of the day, you got to let men be men. But the moral of the story is, you know, me and Cap was cool. So probably about like 10 months later, you know what I mean? I had got PI'd, somebody dropped a kite on me or whatever, and they transferred me, right? But me and Cap, we kept in contact. If I'm not mistaken, they sent me to, I think I went to Macon State for the second time. So when I got to Macon State, I reached out who I reached out to, you feel me? And I hit Cap up. So Cap like, man, bro, damn, I ain't know they're going to transfer and shit. I'm like, man, bro, you know, that's how I be sometime, man. I said, bro, you already know how this shit go, man. You know what I mean? Anytime they hear your name and some mischief, you feel they going to lock you down. He said, man, shorty, all you got to do, tell me who you think told on you, bro, and I'm going to take care of it for you. I'm like, man, bro, there's no need for that, man. I said, we're just going to pick up where we left off at. So, you know, we continue to network. He was down there, and, you know, I introduced him to some individual I was rocking with, and they put Cap in the loop, and, you know, he started getting money. So now, as you already know, any type of success breeds and bring envy. I'm going to say that again for the people in the back that didn't hear me. Any type of success breeds and bring envy. So, you know, Cap was down there getting to the bag. And a lot of people was on the sideline hating. So at this time, you had the Bloods, they was real heavy in Atlanta. And it was one dude, he didn't want to partake in the Blood activity. They were trying to recruit him, and he said, nah. So they ended up, you know, tooling him out on the big yard. So Cap didn't like that. Now at Smith, you know, you had who you rock with. And by this time, it was so many Bloods down there from Atlanta, you know, soon every time you seen a dude from Atlanta, you insinuate he was Blood. And you also had GF down there, aka Goodfellas. And they was at odds with each other. So Cap knew, okay, if I get at these Bloods, you know what I mean? Like I said, he's a thinking man. He knew he was going to lose because only one of him, he had some homeboys from Atlanta that ride with him, but at the end of the day, like I was telling y'all, I'm going to say 85% of dudes from Atlanta, they was You know, if they was a civilian, they was converting over to, becoming a blood. So one day he called me. He told me about the situation. He was like, man, some blood just went one of my homies up on the big yard, coming from the big yard, you know what I mean? And he said, man, I'm trying to, get our lick back. And that's one thing about it. When I was doing time, if a person do something to somebody that's close to you, you got to do something back. Because if you don't, you know what I mean? It's like you will disintegrate. Like your reputation, y'all rep, everything will be gone. And then you'll become victim. So we built in a situation, and I'm like, man, bro, I can't really get involved in that. I can't really let my name come up in that because, I got dudes that's blood I have loyal ties to, and again, that's not my issue. I said, but what I do, bro, you know what I mean? I advise you just to, I ain't even gonna take the stand down, but I said make your next move your best move. Because, Cap was still fighting his case. You know what I mean? And I just told him, I said, yo, stay focused on the bag, man. I said, you can get your lit back another time. It's really like a double-edged sword because you need to do something, but again, you got to pick and choose whether you're going to retaliate or you're going to continue to get this money, stay going to the law library and try to get your case overturned, so on and so forth. So, he is his own man, so I just give him some advice. So let me tell you what he did. He joined GF. And that one is, like, my opinion, that one was a smart move. Because as far as my experience doing time in the Georgia prison system, and I'm saying this respectfully, so for anybody at GF may see this video, you already know what's up with me, you know what I mean? If you don't know what's up with me, holler when you're big homie, whatever, you know what I mean? I don't mean no disrespect when I say this, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, in a lot of wars that good fellas took place, they got the short end of the stick because they was outnumbered. Now, I done seen some time they popped off first and they won, but as far as my eyes can see, I know a lot of situations that they engaged in war, they lost because it only be like 2 of them, 3 of them. But, they go hard, they do their thing, but, no matter how hard you go, if you outnumber 3-18, it's not going to be a pretty sight. But, again, they didn't always lose. But, one of my GF homies called me or whatever, and he told me, he was like, yo, Cat one of us now, right? You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, yeah? He like, yeah. So I'm like, damn. And then I get the phone call from Cap. He like, shit, shorty, what's happening, I'm like, man, what's up, bro? I heard you GF now. He said, man, you already know what's going on, shorty, man. He said, man, I'm about to get my lick back. And that's one thing about, bro, he was real proudful about the city. He always stood up for the A. That's one thing I can say. So I said, man, bro, look, you got to be careful, man. Like, you got to be careful. You already got to pick and choose your battles carefully and when you're going to engage in war. And I don't feel Cap was saying straight. Like, he had blood in his eyes, meaning he couldn't see. And he was furious that somebody from Atlanta had got wet up. So, I tried to talk to bro, man. But his mind was already made up. So one day I'm laying in the bed. And someone like, hey, bro, wake up. I'm like, shit, what's up? They said, man, bro, Cap just got unalive. So when they said that, I jumped out the bed. I'm like, what? So immediately, I had called some individual I got loyal ties to down there, whatever the case may have you. I'm like, shit, hey, fam, what the f-? He said, man, look, bro, they just caught Cap at the gate. And, you know what I mean, they surround him, and they just aired him out. And y'all have to understand, like I was telling y'all, Cap wasn't no small dude, and by this time in prison, ain't no more fighting. Like, either you gonna poke something or you gonna fall back. And they knew trying to deal with Cap with the hands, they might have lost. And at this time, like I said, no gang, no organization to this day ain't no fighting. So they caught him like on the right side by the chow hall, and it was, first it started talking, and by Cap having natural instincts as a leader, he took center stage and went to talking, da 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 da. And while he talking, weapons came out. His weapon came out, but again, he was outnumbered, outgunned. They wet bruh, man, and again, the next thing I know, he was unalive and he was gone. That's why when you go to prison, if you go to prison, or anybody that's watching this video in prison, man, make conscious decisions. Don't make decisions off your feelings or your emotions. Don't be pure pressured by your homeboys to do something that you may regret, because the next decision that you make can be your last decision. So I just want to give y'all that quick story, man. Once again, man, rest in peace to Cap, man. You gone but not forgot, man. We're going to keep your name alive out here. Real rap. Double salute.